I call this portion of the trial with friends like these.
I'm a strong believer in giving credit where credit is due. In cinema, one way in which this is reflected, and perhaps the most noticeable, involves acting. When an actor can deftly straddle the line between comedy and drama, perhaps even dipping themselves into the occasional genre film, people take notice. And today, I'd like to talk about one such actor, or at least two of his films. No, I will not be talking about the GOAT of acting range, a thespian whose awesome body of work dwarfs most contenders with its sheer magnitude. That episode will come shortly. Today I would like to talk about Sacha Baron Cohen, specifically his two recent films that released within weeks of each other, Borat, subsequent movie film, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. How good were they? How different are they? And how well do they resonate? With Borat, subsequent movie film, or whatever they're calling this sequel, a lot has changed in the years since the first film. When the Bush-era comedy was originally released, it was an assault on audience sensibilities, a biting satire on ridiculous conservative hypocrisies and the American way of it. 14 years later, many seeds of hard-right conservative American culture that could be seen in the first film have blossomed into a full-on blazing wildfire that is the hellscape of our political turmoil that we are living in today. In the Borat sequel, we're reunited with Sacha Baron Cohen's probably most endearing character, the bizarre Eastern European journalist Borat. He's been living in the gulag this whole time after having shamed his home country by making the last film. An opportunity arises for him to redeem himself by delivering a present to the Vice Premier of the USA, Mike Pence. Originally, the present was in the form of an intelligent ape, but after a mishap on its voyage to the States, rendering it eaten, a new present must be offered, Borat's daughter. And with this, you have your second Borat film. The plot develops from there, and yes, there is a plot to this film. It's not particularly a throwaway plot either. There is some sincere character development in the form of Borat and his acceptance of his daughter, her development as she learns that women can be smart and independent and drive cars even, and the two's acceptance of a more progressive position in which all that entails, furthermore changing their lives and that of their nation country of Kazakhstan. The narrative of the film is there, but it feels as though it works against the overall comedy. Borat and that style of comedy that Sacha Baron Cohen excels at in these skits involve the old candid camera prank, confronting real people in real scenarios with the ridiculous and oftentimes offensive characters that Sacha creates. So when you have a narrative that's as strong as the narrative in this film, it places a lot more emphasis on having skits that appear very scripted. This takes a lot of the edge away from the film's shock factor. I would find it really hard to believe if you were to tell me that every skit in this film was 100% authentic and not staged in some form or another. I haven't dove too deep into researching that particular aspect of the film. As it were, watching it, that thought is stagnant in the back of your mind, and it nurtures a pretty incredulous belief to the bits in the film. All that considered though, I don't think that is the particular problem with the film. With all honesty, I'm not a huge fan of candid camera prank humor. When it's done right, the cringiness of the situation just really triggers my anxiety and makes it super difficult for me to watch, let alone react humorously to. But there's also that element of poking fun at unsuspecting bystanders that just really doesn't land properly with me. Now, the prime issue I had with this film was the overall assault on low-hanging fruit. Save for some memorable bits here and there, most of the humor just seems cheap and easy. We all love to make fun of the MAGA crowd and the ridiculous nature of backwater yokels and the crazy conspiracy and QAnon theories. But it's not really that funny. The film was far more political than the original Borat, and considering the political hellscape we are living in, and the proximity of this film's release to the upcoming election, I feel that it arrived at the most appropriate time, and I think that's what works best for this film. this film works as a political satire, albeit it is very straightforward and very on the nose. It is political satire nonetheless. Ultimately, I think it's this lack of nuance that will render the film less memorable than the first one and lose its relevance when viewed apart from the current climate that we're currently in. Now, taking a trip to the other side of the spectrum, although just as political a film and, in all honesty, funnier in my opinion, we have The Trial of the Chicago 7. In this film, Sacha plays one of the infamous 7, activist and comedian Abbie Hoffman, a role well suited for SBC as it allows him to be funny but at the same time hold a strong political stance. In a way, the Abbie Hoffman role may be his most natural role yet. The film is about the performative sham trial against 7 activists that came to Chicago during the 1968 Democratic National Convention to protest the war in Vietnam. The film is written and directed by Aaron Sorkin and has all that you would imagine finding in one of his films. The film is a courtroom drama with snappy and entertaining dialogue built upon the foundation of historical events. Sorkin sometimes gets a bit of hate whenever he tackles these sorts of things because of his emphasis on creating witty, dramatic interactions over accuracy. But you can't deny that he makes an entertaining product. The gist of the events and their impact on country and culture is really what matters, and that is something the film delivers perfectly well. In addition to SBC in this film, you also have a fantastic cast including Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Eddie Redmayne, Frank Langella, and a remarkable performance by Mark Rylance as the lead attorney in the case. Another wonderful performance goes to Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, who plays Bobby Seale, the only man of color among the 7 being tried. Seale, who was in Chicago for only a couple of hours and had no connection whatsoever with the rioting that prompted the trial, was thrown into this mess of a trial by the DA in order to add a degree of menace to the group, on the grounds that he was the leader of the Black Panther Party. He faces the brunt of the abuse from court authorities and the judge, despite the fact that he's not being allowed to have his lawyer present at the trial. There are a lot of powerful moments with Abdul-Mateen, and the film doesn't treat his character with any less emphasis than any of the other members of the Chicago 7. And it's that aspect that Sorkin really hits it off perfectly. The characters all have a drama all their own and dynamically with one another. The ensemble cast demonstrates an understanding that each of these characters must be living, breathing individuals that will engage with one another in their own manner. The events leading up to the trial unfold alongside the actual court drama, allowing the narrative to really breathe and tell us all of its secrets at an effective pace. At the end of the film, there is a typical triumphant moment of protest, despite how much injustice the cast has been made to endure due to the political prejudice of the people involved. The end result being, you want to learn more of what happened. It truly instills into you the desire to look into this dark mark on our nation's history and hopefully engage in a bit of civic activism yourself. So how do these films stack up? Can you really bring one in comparison with the other? That's an interesting question because, as it's been mentioned, both films have a strong political foundation to them. The hard satire that you get with Borat and the historical reenactment of the Chicago 7. I had a degree of fun with Borat despite a lot of the humor falling pretty flat on me, but I really enjoyed the political angle of it, the political satire. Overall, I don't think there is much deliberation needed. The Chicago 7 is a very clearly much better film. The commentary is pretty straightforward and very on the nose, much like Borat, but for this one, the more conventional narrative is very satisfying and entertaining. Both films are deserving of a watch, although admittedly, Borat will not be for everyone. As I've already said, it wasn't really for me. You can find Borat streaming on Amazon Prime Video and The Trial of the Chicago 7 on Netflix. Give both a watch if you can, if you have the time. Get into a good mindset to really evaluate the sort of things that are happening in our country today. Use that to determine what direction you want the US as a nation to go. Use that inspiration, and if you haven't already, remember, vote this upcoming week. The soul and identity of a nation is that thing. Thank you for watching, and thank you for listening to my thoughts on Borat and the trial of the Chicago 7. Make sure to like, follow, obey, and subscribe, and share with your friends. If you watched the film, if you have any thoughts on your own, please comment down below. And until next time, my name is Michael J. Migliore, and I am your man on film.